Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about the sum or difference formula. So the sum or difference formula is a type of trigonometric identity. So it's sort of like a formula that we use in trig to solve functions easier. So as you can see, for the specifically sum and difference formulas, you have three different formulas, one for sine, one for cosine, and one for tangent. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one problem involving each so that you guys get an idea of how the formula works. So first of all, let's do our first question. Okay, so our first question is going to be sine of 75 degrees. Now, sine of 75 degrees, if you refer back to the unit circle, there really isn't a point on your unit circle where you can find sine of 75 degrees, just because it's not a multiple of 30 or 45 or even 60. So we're going to need to use the sum or difference formula for this. So sine of 75 degrees, we want to split this. We want to split 75 into two numbers that are being added or subtracted. So let's do two numbers that we can find on our unit circle. If you remember the unit circle, you know that it goes 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. So what are two numbers here that if you add, you get 75? 30 and 45. So we can split this as sine of 30 degrees plus 45 degrees. So it's still the same thing because it's still sine of 75 degrees, but we're just writing it in a way that's simpler. So now let's look at the formula for sine. In this case, it tells us that sine of x plus or minus y, so sine of any two numbers being added or subtracted onto each other, equals sine of x times cosine of y plus or minus cosine of x times sine y. So it is a bit to remember. You do maybe have to memorize this, but that's just what the formula is. So if we use the formula to rewrite this problem, this is going to be our x and this is going to be our y, and all of this now is just going to be simple substitution. So let's look at the right hand side. We have sine of x times cosine of y, so we're going to do sine of 30 degrees times cosine of 45 degrees. And now it's plus or minus. In this case, since we used plus for the first one, we're going to use plus for the second one. So plus cosine of x times sine y. So cosine of 30 degrees times sine of 45 degrees. So that is we're using the sum formula to rewrite sine of 75 degrees. Now you're probably asking, now we have to find four different types of like trigonometric functions. We have to find sine of 30, cosine of 45, cosine of 30, and sine of 45. But think about it. If you refer to your unit circle, you have certain values for each of these trigonometric functions. You don't have a value for sine of 75, but you do have an exact value for each of these four. So now you have to refer back to your unit circle and try to find the values of each of these. So if we refer back to our unit circle, sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. Cosine of 45 degrees is root 2 over 2. And then we're going to add with cosine of 30 degrees times sine of 45. So cosine of 30 degrees is root 3 over 2. And then sine of 45 degrees is going to be root 2 over 2. So now we want to simplify this. If we simplify this, we will get square root of 2 over 4 plus square root of 6 over 4. So we're just multiplying. Square root of 2 plus square root of 6 all over 4, and that is going to be your final answer for sine of 75 degrees. Now you're probably wondering why it's such a weird fraction, but if you think about it, this will translate to a decimal that probably will be sine of 75 degrees. So that's how we solved for sine of 75 degrees using the sum or difference formulas. So now we are going to do cosine of 75 degrees. So we're going to do the same angle, but we're just going to use a different trigonometric function. So to do cosine of 75 degrees, we want to first split this. In this case, we can do the same splitting as we did before. So we can just do 30 plus 45. So this is going to be cosine of 30 plus 45 degrees. Now let's rewrite this using our formula. So we know that cosine of x plus or minus y equals all of that stuff on the right. So if we look at the first term on the right, we have cosine x times cosine y. In this case, this is x and this is y. So we're going to write this as cosine of 30 degrees times cosine of 45 degrees. And then if you can see, we have a minus and plus symbol, like the minus is on the top. Whatever is on the top corresponds to each other. So on the left, if you use plus for in between over here, then you will use minus over here. It's the opposite of what we did for sine. So whatever's on the top goes together, whatever's on the bottom goes together. So in this case, we're going to do minus. And on the right, we have sine of x times sine of y. So sine of 30 degrees times sine of 45 degrees. So now let's substitute our values from the unit circle to solve for this. Cosine of 30 degrees is root 3 over 2. And then cosine of 45 degrees is root 2 over 2. Sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, and sine of 45 degrees is root 2 over 2. If you're wondering how I know this off the top of my head, that's just how we do the unit circle. I do have a couple of videos on that you can go check out to be able to understand how to do the unit circle better. But now let's work on simplifying this. So let's simplify the first part. You get square root of 6 over 4 minus square root of 2 over 4. I'm just multiplying these two and subtracting. So in this case, I'm just going to write it all together. Square root of 6 minus square root of 2 all over 4. And this is going to be your final answer for cosine of 75 degrees. So we just used those formulas and sort of just deduced our answer. Now let's do our next question. Okay, so let's do our final question, which is tangent of 75 degrees. So we're going to use the same angle this time. I'm just showing you how each of the different formulas works. So let's split 75 degrees as 30 degrees plus 45 degrees. Now, of course, you can also use the subtraction. So let's say you can also do tangent of something minus something, and then just use the bottom of whatever is in these plus or minus symbols, and the rest of it is all the same. But let's do plus. So tangent of 30 degrees plus 45 degrees equals, we're going to use our formula over here. As you can see, first is tangent x. So in this case, you must know by now that 30 is x and 45 is y. So we're going to do tangent of 30 degrees. We're going to do plus because that's what's on top, and over here, that's what we did. So we did what's on the top on the left, so we did plus. So we're going to do the same thing for this part. So tangent of 30 degrees plus tangent of 45 degrees because it's added on to tangent of y. And on the bottom, we're going to do 1 minus, because as you can see, the minus symbol is on the top. And what we did over here was do the 1 on the top. So we have to stay and use the symbol that's on the top. It's a bit confusing, but you'll get used to it as you do more practice. So it's going to be 1 minus tangent of x, so 30 degrees, times tangent of y, which is 45 degrees. And that's all. So now let's simplify this even further. So tangent of 30 degrees. What is tangent of 30 degrees? Tangent of 30 degrees is equal to root 3 over 3. This is going to be added on to tangent of 45, which is just equal to 1. This is all over 1 minus tangent of 30, which we already found as root 3 over 3, times tangent of 45, which we already found as 1. So on the top, it's going to be root 3 plus 3 over 3. I just added the two fractions together. On the bottom, it's going to be 1 minus root 3 over 3. So now let's simplify this. Root 3 plus 3 over 3. And this is going to be divided by 1 minus root 3 over 3. So essentially, 3 minus root 3 over 3. And again, this is just some basic simple arithmetic that I'm doing over here and just rearranging these fractions. If you want me to do it on the side, so it's 1 minus root 3 over 3. What I did was I rewrote the 1 as a fraction. So 3 over 3 times root 3 over 3. And I made sure that the denominators were the same. And then now you can just put it together. So it can just be 3 minus root 3 over 3. So now let's simplify this. Root 3 plus 3 over 3 times the reciprocal of that because you're dividing. So 3 minus root 3. So you can cancel out the 3's. Final answer will be root 3 plus 3 over 3 minus root 3. So this is going to be your final answer for tangent of 75 degrees. So as you can see, let's scroll all the way back to the top. There are 3 different trig formulas, or sum or difference identities that you need to know, and each of them sort of, so sine, cosine, and tangent have their own. It's important to know which one to use and how to use it, and how to just sort of manipulate your question so you're able to solve. So I hope you all found this video useful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below.